Welcome back to Everything's a Project. What I'm working on now is a adapter for the Hardinge Lathe. So it's going to be a 5C solid mount, and then I have a 8-inch aluminum plate that'll go on here. So I'm doing a series of 6 quarter 20 bolts that the aluminum plate will bolt onto, and then onto that will be a fixture, or then that is the fixture plate for some motorcycle parts that have to do their 8-inch diameter. And that's the easiest way to hold that little bigger material. So I've already drilled and countersinked each of the holes, and now I'm tapping. So a little bit of anchor lube. When you tap, you want to always keep pressure downward on the quill, and then when it's time to reverse out, you keep pressure going up. And that ensures that the tap follows the thread. If not, sometimes it'll stall and then work like a end mill. Okay, so here we go. So what I had done was on my through hole, I didn't go all the way through because it's close to that back edge there. So, you know, as soon as it wants to slip, that's just about at the bottom of the hole. Then I just clean it up real quick with this. The first 2 holes I did, the taps would slip, and that's a good indication that they're getting dull. So this is a fresh tap, and as you saw, I didn't have any issue until it got to the bottom of the hole. And again, I'm using the DRO that has the bolt pattern built in. So I just told it to go to the next bolt location, and then it gives me the dimension to work from down to 0. Probably should tighten that up on the chuck a little more, it looks like. So this is that Chinese, you know, the aftermarket 5C stuff. And this is my first time using this exact type of piece, but I have some other collet closers, and the metal is just crap. I don't like it at all. You know, normally I've been able to tap this stuff effortlessly with the procedure I just showed you. I'm going to keep going the way I'm going, and I hope I don't break a tap, but it won't be a huge problem on this. So I've done a lot of reaming between here and at work, and if you watch the video about me with my fix-up, those reamers were terrible. So what I had to do here in the shop, like I did in that video, is I left it loose and then it found itself. At work, I just did 3 different sizes and they all ran true in a collet. You know, these are American made. APT, made in the USA, and both sizes were crap. The holes were good if I left it all loose, but you tighten them up and then they're like bananas. So, you know, that was a pretty good setback on that one part I was making. You know, that takes away from you know, it being good money to okay money. I dropped those parts off, and the customer really liked them, and we made a tentative deal. So he used to manufacture some of these devices, and essentially it's like a legacy part for him. And after he hasn't sold one in 20 years, but somebody who has an original one wanted one more, so that's why he came to me, is to do a one-off. It's not a production run. And then he had some prototype stuff that needs to get made, so that's our next project together. And coming back to this guy, yeah, this metal is shit too. Now this tap should have no problem. You know, the spiral would help a little bit because the chips would come upward, but this is a 1/4 20. I should have no problem tapping this. So this is the last of the 6. And then I want to move right into prepping that plate. So I'll show you that. This 5C holder is nice. Since this isn't split, this arm doesn't really do anything, because usually you set it up, then you pull the lever and it draws it in, just like how the collet closer works on the mill, or sorry, on the lathe. And I'm not sure if these come with all the sides machined. A lot of these adapters don't have all the sides machined, like my indexer and stuff like that. The guy I bought the shop, his shop out, he might have done the machining on it, but it's a lot nicer. That way you can just throw it in the vise. You know, you don't have to worry about it holding in there, plus how well how square it is. So this is going to be fine. I want to run the stone over it real quick. So this is just a bench stone. That's going to be good. So get this out of the way. So, yeah, so you tighten, oops. This is where you tighten it up, and in this case you go full tight, and then if it wasn't, then you leave it a little bit loose, that way you can actuate the arm. Set that off to the side. Okay, so this is the, I forgot what series, Kurt Weiss, but I have the bigger one. This one's okay, but the newer generation, they open up even more. So in this case, it will fit the 8-inch round as long as I had the jaws off. And I'm okay with that. Let's see, I do have parallels. Those are too tall. Those are from when the jaws were on. So these are 9-inch parallels. So it's good for when you have overhanging stuff. Knock down the saw cut edge. So this particular material came from Industrial Metal Supply. They have a warehouse between here and where I work, so it's pretty convenient to stop by there and grab, you know, pre-cuts like this. Makes life a lot easier. They have them in different thicknesses. See how this holds. What I'm going to do, so the back side of this stone is smooth on one side or fine and coarse on the other. So a lot of times on aluminum I'll use the coarse. So this isn't sitting well. So I'll see if this side gets any better. And it's okay to use your stone on aluminum. As a matter of fact, I dress a lot of the edges on parts that I make with fine stones on aluminum. And all you do is, to freshen the stone, just a similar grit, just run them across each other. So like this is what I use the soften edges on those aluminum parts I just delivered. But to get the aluminum out, you just can go over like that, and you hear it smoothing up, and you feel it smoothing up. And then when you get some buildup, just put a little alcohol or oil on them, and that'll clean them right up as if they never even had aluminum on them. So I'll have to file this one real quick. I left the file over here. Let's see. Let's see how this behaves. Pretty wobbly too. Let's see if if a V-block will work. I had made some wide angle V-blocks, but they're at work. I don't know how much. Yeah, definitely don't have that much room left. Okay, we'll make it work. One of the things we'll do is move these inboard a little bit. With the wider parallels, you can move them in pretty easy without much concession. But on the thin ones, they'll tend to tilt on you, and you won't have a good. It won't be flat. They need to be up against something to stay square. Not horrible. So what I'll do is I'll kiss this side and then flip it. The OD of the material could be out around a little bit. I'm not going to deal with that until it's on the lathe. But let's see how the fly cutter does on this. It worked really well on those 2 other aluminum pieces I did, but the fly cutter covered the whole face, no overlap. And the cut on this will have some overlap. I think I can go farther out, but I don't really want to. They can get out of balance and put some stress on the head. So this is a carbide, brazed carbide tip. Then I added key stock to kind of offset the stick out. I didn't do any fancy math or anything like that to figure out how much weight I needed. You know, because technically with the carbide on the end, it's a little heavier for the same length. So, you know, I've been doing those mill-side chats, and I kind of like talking about that stuff. I know some people don't, but there's a lot of stuff we got to make sure we're keeping track of. And you know, every day the stories are just terrible. I mean, I don't know how much you guys are tracking, but we're involved in 4 or 5 wars at the moment. And a lot of people forget we went through all that with Obama. I mean, we were in Mali, Syria, Libya, a couple other places. You know, a lot of those places were quiet when the previous president was in, you know, Mr. Trump. And now they're all hotbeds again. And they really do take advantage of weakness. So it's Thursday, January 11th, and we just launched an attack against the Houthis in Yemen. They're proxies of Iran. Iran was down to their last $4 billion 3 years ago. Now they have hundreds of billions of dollars because Mr. Biden and his advisors and, you know, the misfits, desperate to make that Iran nuclear deal for some reason. So they freed up all this money, you know, and then they freed up a ton of money for a few hostages. Plus they exchanged 1 for 1 on the hostages, plus we gave them money. I don't know who. Nobody's thinking. But anyways, that stuff comes back to bite us, and it is. You know, what's going to happen when the next Benghazi happens, or worse? You know, what if they get a good strike on one of the ships? It's all haphazard, you know. And then recently we found out that the Secretary of Defense was in ICU for several days and never told his chain of command, which is the President of the United States. And you know, the President isn't interested in doing anything. And you know, the Secretary of Defense is number 4 in the list of succession, and in the chain of command, he's number 2 for the military. And you know, who's making the calls? You know, active wars are going on. You know. And nobody's running the ship. So it turned out to be that he has prostate cancer. So hopefully they get that under control. The reason why he was in was supposedly a urinary tract infection. But he's still in there, so he spent 3 or 4 days in ICU, and now he's in week 2 of being in the hospital, in a regular bed. That was interesting. So on these mills, you run out of room really quick. So I'm at the full extension of the table. There is a little bracket under there. Oh no, I'm not. Okay, never mind. I thought it was, but I have like 4 inches left. Okay, so let's get this sped up a little bit. So I'm still going to just ease into it. I only went up 5 thousandths. You know, the part isn't in there real well. So getting back to all the war stuff, so in Haiti there's a police action now being run by the UN, funded by the United States, and being fought by Kenyan police and military. And you know, we've spent, well, the Clintons have spent how much money in Haiti, and the place is still a shithole, you know. Matter of fact, the Dominican Republic, their neighbor, those are 2 countries on the same island. They just built the 2nd largest border wall in the Western Hemisphere, because they don't want the violence or migrants to spill over and ruin their big deal. They've been a little better with their country or their government and their economy than Haiti. Haiti is a disaster, permanent disaster. And you know, every time they get a leader in there, they kill him. So now we got Russia versus Ukraine. We're funding both sides of that because of the oil relief we gave Russia. You know, we've done some some sanctions on him now, but we've given Putin $1 billion to negotiate the treaty, the nuclear treaty with Iran. Yeah, baby, look at that. It's like shit's a flying. And then the Israel and Hamas war. And again, we're kind of funding both sides of that too, because a lot of our aid goes into the Palestinian, well, into Palestine or Gaza, and Hamas just steals it from the people. And you know, of course, we don't have to be responsible with how we spend our money, so we don't bother checking. And then another thing that's going on currently is North and South Korea have been exchanging fire, as well as Russia has just put in an order to North Korea for more 155 millimeter howitzer type shells, artillery shells, because Russia's running low. They were still working off the inventory from the Soviet era. But they're running low because the war is taking longer than they thought. But the other thing that's been in the headlines fairly recently is that crank this baby up, is that we'll see. Oh, so the U.S. government's not really interested in fighting the Ukrainian-Russian war anymore, so they're working on the exit strategy now to negotiate a deal. And if Ukraine is lucky, they're still going to remain a country, but they might have to give up some land. So I'm looking around for, I just bought one of those cool shields. Where did I put it? It's got a big magnet on it, so I stuck it to something. Oh, it's right above the camera. Look. So I got one of these from that Lockline company, and I kind of like it. I've only used it a little bit so far. We'll give it a try now. To me, the price seemed okay. I think it was like 35 bucks. Let's see. So you know what? I'll put it on the table because it wants to throw the chips right at me. It's pretty easy to configure. Being a magnet, it'll suck when you're doing steel stuff and all the chips stick to it, but okay, so hopefully this can be the last pass. Whoops, don't want to go that high, start shaking. So we're at about 730 RPM. That does pretty good with vibration. Surface finish is usually pretty good. So essentially I just need to get a good backside for this aluminum plate, and then when I flip it, I put in that bolt pattern, counter bore where the bolts go, and then I'll do the facing on the lathe. Now when I just cut that previous pass, I noticed that it cuts better going towards me, so I'm going to go through the trouble, I think. Let's see, where do we end up? Yeah. Let's see how this goes. I'm thinking out loud. Yeah, it gives like a checkered pattern when you go back and forth. Let's see. Now I don't want to raise and lower the table because it's hard to get it exactly the same. But for what this is, it'll be fine because it'll any little bit of unflatness or lack of squareness, I'll be able to make up when I face it on the lathe. Just that it was saw cut on both sides. So another war type news, what else we got? So I think I went over the shooting wars already. Let's see. So Hertz rental car is greatly reducing their electric vehicle offerings because they're having a hard time renting them out, and then the cost for repairs has been a lot more than conventional cars. And if you watch the other fireside chat, I mentioned I'm a day one investor in Tesla, so I'm all down for electric cars, and it's because once electricity is made, then using it and transferring it is very economical and easy to do. And electric motors are far more efficient. But creating that electricity is the expensive part and the polluted part, I guess you could call it. You have solar, but that's still a minor fraction of the energy creation. Tesla was doing it right. They were figuring out everything. They were setting up their own chargers. I watched I don't watch it anymore, but I watched from their first supercharger. They had a map, and every day it got updated with ones that came online, ones that are in work, ones that are planned, and it was pretty cool watching all that. The Tesla automobile is out of my budget, and I drive across town through Phoenix, and it's really hard on cars. So I don't want to buy a nice car. I want a disposable car that's good on gas. So I have, I bought a brand new $18,000 car that gets more than 40 miles a gallon, mixed miles per gallon, and but it's discontinued now because of the electrics. And it's not a good thing how the government's gone about essentially mandating these vehicles, because they changed the mile per gallon requirements from somewhere in the 30s to I think it's 43 miles per gallon now, this year 2024, then it's 48 for 2025, and then it's I think 53 in 2026. And we can't afford those cars. Just a couple years ago, the average new car price was $35,000. Now it's $50,000. And along with the cost of the car, you also have your insurance is more because of the value of the car, and it's also more because regular inflation and the cost to repair them between labor and parts is more. So there's also an insurance crisis going on. Nearly everybody's insurance is getting canceled or raised. And that's directly because of poor policies of the current administration. I mean, maybe you don't like Trump, but everything was better. The only problems we had when Trump was in office was from the communists. People think, I'm sure people say, oh, that guy's McCarthy. Well, they really are communists. Antifa are communists. Black Lives Matter are communists. And our Democrat Party gave them the time of day so that they would, sow division among the people. And a lot of us don't want to have to think about it, but they throw that on us, and most of us people would all get along fine if you didn't try to divide us. Okay, so it's really nice. See how it feels with the hammer. It's not really going to set without these up against the there. But what I want to get to, so I'm not going to face this side. I could if I wanted, but like I said, I'll do it on the lathe. Oops, what I want to do is get to indicating it in. I can't remember if I've gone over that method or not. Got to clean up. We got a lot of little projects going on. It's kind of fun being in the shop. It's Phoenix, Arizona, but we're having a cold streak. So I got the heater going, and it works really nice. I have it, keep it 60 in here while I'm not here. That way it only takes a little bit of effort to get it up to temperature. And because we have 30, we're in the 30s in the morning, and then we get into the 50s and 60s during the day. And this is going to be a little bit of winter. This will be a couple weeks of this, and then by the end of January it'll already be warming up, and then will be perfect weather into March and April. Then it'll get hot again. Then they'll tell us the world's coming to an end, and then we'll wake up again, and it won't be. Okay, so on this, I'm going to use the edge finder to get me close. Again, this has a 200 thou stem. So if you just touch one side, once it goes clean and then kicks, then you retract it and you go 100 thou so that you're on center. We're gonna do across X in center and Y in center, so we don't have to make that adjustment. We touch each side. And when you do this, your first side, it doesn't matter when it's a round part, it doesn't matter if you're on center or not. You just have to stay in the same plane. So you can't move Y at all right now. So hopefully you can see that with the camera. So it's pretty true. And you'll see it gets almost perfect. And you can watch either the reflection line or you can watch where the lower half and the upper half meet. And then I just bump it in. I bump the handle. It's a little tedious, but this way you get a pretty good good touch. I did that black piece, that 5C piece, and when I indicated it, it was 2/10 off. So you just saw, hopefully, that it kicked. So now you set your DRO to 0, retract, go to the other side, do not move Y at all. Now I didn't measure this piece. It's listed as an 8-inch piece. But if you measure it, essentially, if you get a good touch off with your edge finder, it'll be the size of your piece plus 200 thousandths when you touch both sides. That one, I felt like I went a little too much, so I just go back. So then you take the number you got and you either calculate it in half, or on this one it has a center, or it has a center line function. So it gives you the number, and then kind of like with the bolt circle thing, you just take it to 0. So that puts us at 0 for the X dimension, X axis. Now we'll do Y. So nice with this Acer E-head. It's so quiet and smooth. At work I have 2 bridge ports that I use, and they're so noisy and clunky, and one of them isn't that old of a rebuild. And the tables are so sloppy. I've tried to take out the backlash and tighten the gibs, but the nut's worn out of them. And, you know, we're a big company, but we don't have any money or to fix anything. So your first touch, you make that 0, move to the opposite side. I feel very fortunate that this mill works so well. I've probably mentioned it a couple times, but you know, I just bought out that shop, and the machines look like shit. You know, you might have noticed they're black. And it doesn't come off. You have to use Easy Off oven cleaner to get any of this stuff off. And some things it takes the paint off. But they all work well. Now this, when I tighten down this table, it's within a half a thou. You know, if I do the locks. And it'll hold in place if I need to drill and stuff like that. The ones that work, they're all over the place. I lock it down, it moves 5/1000ths. And here I am, they want me to hold, you know, half a thou tolerances. You know, it's an aerospace shop. But I pull it off, but it's tedious. And a lot of the work I do here, you'll see in my videos, you know, I might not know exactly how to tackle it or fumble around or make a mistake. It takes decades of doing all kinds of stuff to know all the ins and outs, because the type of work I do at work is totally different than what I do here, but they slowly interchange. Like I just had to do some plates, some bigger plates, but they used a lot of the same operations that those little parts they just had. So, you know, pad on my back, I probably, from working at home on that most current project, I probably shaved 2 to 3 hours of work off of that project at my day job because of the experience I picked up. Now, even though I've done similar work to that, it was fresh in my head. It's built on times I've done it before, and you know, that's where with manual stuff, that's where you have to save your time. If you got to go back and forth, you'll really get bogged down. Okay, so we're going to be putting in through bolt holes for 1/4 20 bolts, and they offer a loose fit and a tight fit. I'm going to do the tight fit because I tend to keep on my numbers. So let's see what it says. If I have it. It says the letter F drill. Let's see if I have an F. Yep. Okay, so got the center drill. So when I do any of the positioning, this DRO reads in half thou. The one at work reads in single tenths. So over here, I keep everything within a half of a thou, and at work I try to keep everything within 2 to 3 tenths, and it just makes the assembly go a lot better. I don't ever really have to go back and, you know, wall or anything else. Oh, you know what? Let me go. This always gets me mixed up a little bit. So what you have to do is you have to set your incremental and your absolute numbers at 0, 0 for the bolt circle thing to work right. Because it's as if it references the absolute number but it moves in incremental. Okay. Yeah, so and the thing that flagged me that I hadn't done that is it wanted me to move in X and Y, but the first hole should only be a movement in X. So now I move it to 0, 0, fire it up. Get a start going there. Go to the next hole. So this is an X and a Y move. So I do them together for a little while until I get close, and then I concentrate on one. Until it reads 0, 0. Go to the next hole. That's directly across from the one I just did, so it's only an X move. So this is an X and a Y move to the next hole. Can't wait to get my conversational CNC going. Because like I've said multiple times, once you plug in these numbers, all you do is hit go and it goes to the next hole. And if you want to be completely, you know, like say I want to run the lathe while that's going, then I just let it do its own drilling, which tends to be slower. But if I just want to be the best of both worlds, and it has patterns already in it, so you can tell it its bolt circle, how many are in there, and it figures out where it's got to go. But then you can blow through, you can be more aggressive drilling and stuff. You know, if you're doing it, so the conversational has a quill, looks just kind of like this, but it's a much bigger platform. Matter of fact, it has 4 dovetails for the Y-axis, and that's what slowed us down on the reconditioning. So these are 2. This has a double stack, so there's another pair here. Unfortunately, you couldn't see that. I don't want to move the camera. So I'm trying to get to this because I want to show you that it should all stack up nice. If you keep all your numbers consistent and you indicate in your parts. We've been doing some fixtures at work, test fixtures, and they got, you know, 30 or 40 parts. And just as long as you do that, they all go together if it's a good drawing. You know, once in a while something will get overlooked and have to adjust, but makes everybody happy. I worked in a tool and die shop for a little while, like part-time, because I had gone back to school after the Army, and that's what I enjoyed the most, was making fixtures, or not fixtures, making the molds, but they're the same principles as fixtures, and did some fixtures too. But you know, in a tool and die shop, you'll work on a mold for months, and you won't know what, like me, and you know, I didn't know what was going on. I just came in, and, you know, they'd say do this and that, and then, you know, a couple months later, you got all these pieces going back together, and a week or 2 after that, it's making parts. It was plastic injection molds. that stuff with the reamer, I had forgotten. I got a couple other nice Elbrick keyless chucks that one I had that goes to my CNC mill, and the other, and some of the others that came with the what am I trying to say? They came with the shop I bought out. And they're a lot nicer for that, but this chuck's been pretty good. Unless I can't find where I did with the key. Cleared off that tooling and plugged the key at the same time. Okay. So now we're gonna let her rip, tater chip. So probably like just under 1,000 RPM. Just read the chips, and then a little bit of lube. Now get it started, make a little pocket, put a little lube in there. It gives you a more accurate hole. At work we use alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, because they don't, you know, the less oil we use on the parts, the better. And it works really good. It keeps everything cool. You know, alcohol removes a lot of heat. So in my introductory video, I showed some drawers I have over here, and what I have done is I use a tap drawer set, a hoop tap drawer set, and in there I have samples all the different kinds of bolts, quarter 20, quarter 28, you know, socket cap screws, hex, button heads, shoulder bolts, and so you can spot check stuff like I just did. We'll be able to check the head when we do the counter bore, and you know, you don't have to dig everything up in the book. Now, sometimes you kind of engineer a part on the fly while you're in the middle of making it. So being able to tack things together with some readily available bolts and not have to have tons of inventory, but a few of each thread type, and then confirm that all goes together. Then you go to the store and you buy the appropriate amount, or if you need a lot, then you buy a box of it. Hardware is a funny thing, because you go to Ace Hardware, it costs you $10 for 3 bolts. You go to a good hardware store like we have here in town, we have a great one called McFadden Dale. I think they have one also in Nevada, maybe Las Vegas area. And then, because we don't have a lot of old school stuff out here in Arizona, like do back east. So this is like an old school hardware store. So they have for every industry. Now I can get end mills from there. I can get all kinds of drills. You know, just about anything you need. And their hardware costs are a lot less than Ace or True Value. You know, you can buy, you know, the individuals that you need are very similar to case lot pricing, but they're also not open at 6 p.m. and they're also halfway across town, but